Hey there, today we are solving some inequalities and the couple of nuances or weird things that happen when you solve inequalities, but for the most part you can kind of pretend that they are equal signs, and we'll talk about those weird things that happen as they show up. Cool, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the extra junk on these problems. We're going to minus 1 from both sides. Bring down the inequality. Go ahead and get rid of that extra junk, divide that 4 on both sides. And we have our answer, x is less than 1/2. Nothing different on that problem. We'll talk about the different things as they pop up in the other problems. Cool, number 2, let's go ahead and get rid of the extra junk. We'll get rid of that positive 1, even though it says 1 minus. That's a positive 1 that we'll get rid of. We'll bring down the negative 4x. Bring down that 2 again. Here is one of the things that's a little bit different about inequalities. When you are dividing by a negative number, it's going to change the sign on your x. So I had negative 4x's. As I bring this down, I now have positive x's. So as the x's are flipping signs, I've got to go ahead and flip the inequality. And then I bring down my answer, and I have my final answer. Let's go ahead and test this. I need a number that's greater than negative a half. I think the easiest number that's greater than the negatives is 0. So think about if I was to plug back in 0. 0 should work because it's greater than a negative number. So let's plug in 0. Four times 0 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. Is 1 less than 3? Yes, it is. So if I wouldn't have flipped that sign, flipped that inequality, it wouldn't have worked out. So if the x's ever flip from negative to positive, we should be flipping the inequality. All right, so that's the first thing that's different. Here's the next thing that's different. If you ever get to an absolute value, which has our 2 absolute value bars, and we got to break it down into 2 equations. The first equation, you're going to keep the inequality. In the second equation, as you flip to a negative 8, you got to make sure that you also flip the inequality. So it looks like we're flipping when we have situations with negatives in here. Then just go ahead and solve for x. There's one of our answers. Solve for x. And we have our 2 x's. So you'll notice an absolute value, I'll have one that is a greater than sign and one that is a less than sign. Cool. On number 4, we're just going to go ahead and undo. We'll see if there's any negative things that are happening that we have to worry about. So notice that subtracting 1, it doesn't change the sign of the x's, so we're okay just subtracting 1. We take the third root at this point, which is not changing the sign on the x. That was a positive x to the third, and it's going to bring it down to a positive x. Take the third root of a negative. You can do that. You can't take the square root of a negative, but you can take the third root of a negative, and there is your answer. So nothing different on that one. The x's didn't change at all. I'm a little worried about this one already because we have negative 2 x's. So as I divide, that's going to go ahead and change from negative 2x squareds to positive x squareds. So the sign is changing. I need to make sure that I go ahead and erase that and change my sign. My x's went from negative to positive, so my sign is changing. Ooh. Now I have 2 answers. As I take the square root, as 2 answers. Square root of x squared is x. Keep the sign. Square root of 16 is 4. X. And then we are going for a negative 4 for our second answer, so our inequality also has to switch. So be aware that when our x's are kind of changing signs is when we are going to flip our inequality sign.